Hello and welcome back to another episode of Taking Back Saturday, a Happy Buyers Club podcast where we break down the real estate market each and every Friday and help home buyers build confidence, follow a process, and hopefully buy really happy. I'm your host, Chase Jones, and joining me today is special guest, and every week special guest of mine is Sam Hunter. How are you, Sam?
Feels like a long time since I've sat in this seat. We've got guests coming out the wazoo, weeks off, holidays, British Brisbane's. I got sore legs. That's how I am today.
Awesome.
Whatever the thigh muscle is called. So,
Well, congratulations on completing the fun run.
thank you. Yeah.
Doesn't sound too fun.
1 year between 10K runs. And that was actually the first bit of exercise that I've done since Emma. For those playing at home, my second daughter was born 3 months ago. So 10Ks after nothing for 3 months other than takeaway and late nights and no sleep is not the way to get back on the horse.
Nice one, man. Speaking about getting back on the horse, here we are doing a podcast together. And this is a podcast that we probably intended to do a fortnight ago because it's something that we get asked about a lot.
Yeah.
And it's about selling.
For sure.
For a lot of movers, so those who have bought in the past and looking to either downsize, upsize, move, whatever it may be, there's a juxtaposition there as to how to play that, and whether it's buying first and then selling, or whether it's selling first and then actively getting out and buying. Like we say, every seller was a buyer once, and almost every seller does start as a buyer. So, just give us your really top level thoughts as to where we start.
I think you've set this up well, and we do get these questions, whether it's like a DM or an email or like a random pat on the back at an open home. People say like, hey, love your stuff. How do we sell our house? Like, what should we look for?
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's because we have no interest in selling a house that people ask us for that advice, because there's no bias there. So
we're not going to come in for a listing prezzo on the Tuesday being like, let's talk about this some more.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what I would say to everyone is we checked how long our podcasting recording software goes for this morning, just because I reckon this will go longer than the sort of 15 to 20 minutes that we try and keep these episodes. We're going to try and cover off on buying first or selling first. What is the right way to go about that? What to look for in a good real estate agent? Do you sell on or off market? What does your house need to look like to get a great price? How do you make it easy to get offers? And all of this is just off the back of me still having sold more houses than I've bought. I was selling houses for a really long time, both here and in the UK. And there's definitely some perspective that I hope I can offer, or we can offer, as to if you and I were selling and buying in the same market, how would we go about it?
Yeah, for sure.
And this is not the right or wrong way by any stretch of the imagination. As it says at the end of the show, this is a general advice podcast only. But if Chase or I had to sell our houses today, this is how we do it.
Yeah. So, forewarning, Riverside, I need you to keep it together for the next 20 minutes. And exactly right. Like, who's to say that we are right or wrong? But this is just from our experience, what we've seen gets the best results for our clients and for buyers and sellers that we come into contact with each and every weekend.
For sure.
So, I know from a real top-down view, we are big advocates of selling first.
For sure.
And that is not only from just the experiences and the stories that we hear from those sellers to buyers, but also a little bit of data behind it too. I know that you've spoken to this before about, based on those that sell first and then buy, as opposed to buy and then sell. They're just getting probably what their property deserves, or more value for money out of their sale property.
Real estate is about stress and anxiety and uncertainty management. And that's not the sexiest stuff to talk about, but it is hugely practical. And the vast majority of people who are moving in a market have jobs and kids and all these other things to think and worry about. The last thing you want to be worrying about on top of that is, are we making the right decisions in the right order? What happens next? How much do we actually have to spend? There's a stat in Brisbane from back in 2018. How relevant that is in 2024, who knows? But it was that if you bought before you sold, you ended up with about 4% less money in your pocket. And that is a combination of, there's a lot of pressure if you find something that you love. And if you loved it, you've probably paid a premium price. Then you've got to get your house on the market. It's very easy to take the first offer in that scenario just to get it done rather than potentially waiting for the right offer. And we'll talk about working with the right agents and everything like that in a moment. But going first and getting where you're going, it leaves you with a few questions. What is our place actually worth? Can we actually afford to fulfill on this? Because potentially you've bought that property on the promise of a price for your place.
An assumption.
In a rising market, most people get that price. In a normal market or a falling market, none of which I expect us to really experience for at least a little while here in Brisbane, that is a risk. And good business, and that's often the way you need to think about a real estate transaction, is actually about really rock solid risk management and risk mitigation. So
I think it comes down to control for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
About whether they have control of a situation or whether they're relinquishing control of it. For some people who are who have families, that control can mean they want to control where they're going.
Mhm.
They like to have that assurance of where they're going, and they would like to be in control of not having to rush into just settling for something that was pretty close to what they were looking for.
Mhm.
And that's a conversation that happens a lot with us, where they're like, we want to know where we're going, and we're happy to do what we need to do in terms of making plans to be able to then sell well as well. And there are ways in which you can do both.
Oh, sure.
Otherwise, if you have bought and then sold, you do lose a little bit of control because you now have a need as opposed to a want. You need to get the result on your sale property to make good on that purchase property. So control and having control of both scenarios that's the ultimate juggle, isn't it? Particularly for those that are busy and have a million other things on their plate.
Without a doubt. And there's any number of financial institutions under the sun that'll sell you bridging finance to make all this easy, right? Go and buy, get a second mortgage only for a couple of months.
Stay in control, except for your back pocket.
Before you go down that road, and again, general advice warning only, authorized by C. Jones and S. Hunter Cooperoo. Before you go down that road, speak to a couple of good real estate agents. Like a good, strong real estate agent will protect a premium price on your sales side of things. And they will also protect a flexible settlement, whether that looks like 90 days, whether that looks like 120 days, right? We like going up in multiples of 30 days here in Brisbane. But you don't have to subscribe to the 30-day settlement. You can go out and you can say, even if you're auctioning your property, the terms of this are a 5% deposit and a 90-day settlement.
Yep.
If you can't meet those terms, don't buy the house. Someone probably will, particularly in this market. So don't feel like you're pigeonholed into those quick time frames. Keep control of that side and set yourself up. What that does is it gives you 3 months to go and find a house.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to think about things like bridging finance, or you probably book the removals, but not actually going and finding the first place that ticks half of the boxes because you've got to move out in 30 days. So you get a bit of time, you get a bit of control, and you get certainty in what you can actually spend because you have a contract on your place that is unconditional. You know you're selling, so you can confidently go out and make decisions.
Yeah, doesn't that sound like a much better way in which to approach the purchase of a property, having assurance on where you are financially because you have a contract of sale against your place, and because you didn't work off the assumption or someone told that you had to have a 30-day settlement, even if it was sale via auction, and you've got 3 months. 3 months, we tell most clients that we're buying for them within 6 weeks, hopefully.
Yep.
So 3 months to go out and do all the things that we tell people to do, where you can take the time to prepare well, research, go out and actively search, not just like fluff about in the market, knowing exactly where you sit financially as opposed to working off assumptions.
For sure. If you've got a realistic brief search, if you've got realistic must-haves, let's say to keep it really general, there'll be 2 houses in 2 months that tick all those boxes that you'll have an opportunity to go and buy. They may not be 10 out of 10s, but they'll certainly be 7 out of 10s. And again, with that certainty of what you're looking for, certainty of sale and certainty of finances, it's a hell of a lot easier to say no to stuff you don't really love. And it's a hell of a lot easier to go that extra $5,000 at auction if you have to and if you have the capacity to because you've done all this. I think it's not to say, and again, we're talking about how we do things, right? But it's not to say that you can't buy something before you sell. My view on bridging finance is it is an absolute last resort. It serves its purpose. People would use bridging finance every weekend to secure their family's next move. But it can It has the potential to cause a reasonable amount of financial and emotional pain, right? Only use it if you have to. Only use it if you're clear on your moving time frame and you've, again, like a business, forecast the costs ahead of time and they are acceptable and comfortable to you. Bridging finance should not cause arguments after the fact. It should, quite rightly, cause debate beforehand.
Yeah. And it's not to say that those that, again, harboring back to controlling where they're moving to, want to have that certainty in buying, to say that you can't put it on a slightly longer settlement.
For sure.
Negotiate 60 days on the purchase of the new property, and that is plenty of time for a good estate agent to get you on the market and get you a premium result.
I think that's a point that you can't undersell, pun intended, is if you are going to buy before you sell, if that's the decision you've made, pick your sales agent early, actually sign a listing agreement with them so that if they do meet, your area's hottest buyer or hottest buyer's agent,
Hey-o.
You can get them through. And there can be deals done away from realestate.com.au, away from signboards and expensive marketing campaigns and everything like that. I think you're right. Realistic sellers, which everybody is if they're moving in a market, in my view, backed up by strong real estate agents, can expect really good offers in that first week. Or they can do a short auction campaign. We saw a property go to auction. It was on a 2.5-week campaign. It got a great price, right? So they don't need to be 4-week campaigns with a $15,000 investment. The market is there to sell for a great price at the moment. So if you are going to go and secure the next one, just get your agent first. Like lock them away so that they know your plans, over communicate with them, get their advice. If you're not using a buyer's agent, you're not going to go out and do your research and you've signed up with a sales agent, get their advice on everything you're looking at. They should give you great advice to make sure that everything lines up and you can actually do it that way. Again, not right or wrong, but do it in and with as much confidence as possible. I'd also probably agree with them. What does the basement look like for our place when we do go on the market? And you make the decisions that you're making to buy around the low price, not the high price.
Yeah, don't bullshit me. Give me straight answers and help me. That's the thing. Like we talk about having these really important conversations with all the really important people, and it's not just fluff. Those conversations with your mortgage broker, with your solicitor, with your potential sales agent ahead of time, before like the rubber hits the road, are crucial because it just will make the whole process smoother and you'll have support. You're not doing it by yourself. It's not just you versus the world with this podcast in your pocket. You have people in your corner that all want you to get a great result.
Agreed.
And, just making sure those conversations are had ahead of time, and with the right people as well. You've sat on the other side of a listing presentation table for a long time. The coffee table and the brochures and
Take me back.
For those that are, sitting back being like, okay, how do I pick a good sales agent? We certainly get asked all the time, who should I sell with? What do you think differentiates the good from the potentially not so good agent? And what should people be looking for in a sales agent?
I mean, the only advice that I can give here is how I used to do it. And I felt like that was a really good way of, obviously, of selling a house and hopefully giving people a really rock solid experience where every expectation wasn't just set but exceeded. Everybody asks about fees. That's the first thing.
I nearly said that. I was like, fees is something that people can't escape from.
It's the same thing for us, right?
For sure.
People are like, hey, I've listened to your podcast. What do you cost?
This all sounds lovely.
Yeah,
You're great.
And we're like, what's your name? Right? But money's really important to people. And often the first thought when you come to selling your property or engaging buyers agent is, what does it cost me, not what do I get, right? And there's a big difference between cost and value. I would suggest to everybody who is considering selling their property, get an agent with a fair fee, not a cheap fee. So fees used to be regulated in Queensland, like, I don't know, probably 10 years ago now. It was 2.5%. It was 5% of the first $18,000 and 2.5% plus GST on the balance. When they got deregulated, the good agents put their fees up and the bad agents put their fees down. So there was a lot of the regulation was a really easy way for an average agent to get paid way more money than they deserve, because it was like, this is what the government has set our fees at. When it got deregulated, all these good agents went to 3% plus GST. Some even went to 3.75% plus GST. It's a lot of money to sell a house. There's got to be some value delivered there. And a lot of the run-of-the-mill, one deal a month agents were like, I'm going to 1.5, just because this is going to be my USP. If an agent's charging you less than 2%, and you're not selling a home that's worth £5 million, $5 million, sorry, that's my slang run through, then I would question why. When you get into that super prime upper echelon market, there's a lot of 1.5s floating around because the transaction volume, value of the transaction is so high. But if you're mum and dad selling a family home for $2 million, then if it's 2% or less, I'd question why. 2.2% is pretty standard, I think, across a variety of good, bad, excellent real estate agents. But look for an agent that's prepared to put their reputation, their strategy, their exuberance and energy on the line. A lot of really rock solid agents will start at that 2%, but they will say, if I get you over X, and this is a price that we agree for you is an absolute dream price, then I deserve to be remunerated above that, because we feel pretty confident that this is like the zone where the house sells itself, basically. Here's where we're actually doing a job to maximize your sale price. And that could be 100 grand above your dream price. It could be whatever it is. We went to an auction on the weekend where reserve was 1.1, it sold for 1.2. I know that agent doesn't do kickers, but that'd be a good opportunity for there to be one. And they might be 10 cents in every dollar above that price. That's a better way of doing it, having that incentive, having a bit of a sliding scale. Look for an agent that's willing to negotiate on your behalf and also on their behalf, because you want somebody incentivized to get you the absolute top dollar, particularly if you already bought a house.
Yeah, I think a little bit of a case of, you get what you pay for, and if you are dealing with the 1 to 1.5%ers, it might be a case of not what you're not paying, but also what you're not getting from that agent.
Do they ring people back?
Yeah.
Are they having a conversation with everybody that has inspected your house the same day, whether that's a midweek open home, whether that's a Saturday afternoon? Are they willing to extract offers on a Saturday arvo to leverage against a Tuesday best and finals campaign? That, like, it's got to be worth it for them. That's a lot of work to sell a house. Like, yeah, you can put photos online, and yeah, you can do a video, and you can put on realestate.com. The work comes in extracting everything from a buyer possible, so that you understand who you can get $10,000, get $50,000 more from versus everybody else.
Yeah, it's something in the podcast that I had on Friday with Megan, where she's like, do you want me standing there, handing out brochures, or do you want me there doing the calls on the Saturday afternoon to actually extract you the best possible sale price? And that's what you want from your agent. You aren't paying them to stand out the front and hand out brochures. You are there to get the best result possible for you, and hopefully that also means for them as well. Twice the motivation to get that result. A lot of that boils down to communication. It must be one of the top 10 most said words on this podcast is communication. And a good communicator, both to potential buyers, but also to you as a vendor, being able to sort of join the dots between the feedback they're receiving and actually communicating that to you is a very key part of being what I believe a good sales agent, in terms of one that you would want to have in your corner, because they're actually giving it to you straight.
For sure. I'd be sitting, and again, if you're doing it, the typical call 3 agents in, pick one. I'd ask them. I wouldn't ask them about their market share or their local expertise, right? I'd say to them, how often do we expect to hear from you? And if the answer is not every day, right? Selling a house, buying a house is an intense relationship. Trust has to be built really early, and then it has to be maintained throughout the campaign. That only happens through genuinely daily communication. If nothing happens on an inquiry side, or there's no hits online, expect your agent, a good agent anyway, to call you and say, hey, nothing happened today. If nothing happens tomorrow, I'm going to come and see you, and we're going to have a conversation about what we can change, because something here isn't fitting with our target market. If you're just getting an agent that tells you everything's fine, and then it comes to auction day and you've got no one who's registered, that's a stuff up, right? That's why you're seeing lower clearance rates in Brisbane now than every other capital city, because Brisbane has been going gangbusters for so long. People have forgotten how to have courageous conversations. They've forgotten how to tell truth. And the 35% that did sell were with the best agents in Brisbane. The others
were local experts
sitting around and hoping.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we had some great conversations throughout last weekend and even over the weekend with agents that were like, hey, this is what a normal market looks like. And this is where the good agents will continue to rise, and those that have gotten and just been floating through for the last few years might find it difficult, because they're having these conversations maybe for the first time in their careers.
For sure. I'd also, on picking a good agent, I'd sit there and in that dining room table conversation, just say to them, if we're talking about this dream price, how confident are you getting that and getting paid your added fee with a 90-day settlement?
Yeah.
So bring that in, have those conversations early. And again, just say to them, I don't want bullshit, right? I'm going to hold you to everything that you say to me today. Start telling the truth today, you'll get it back from us. Because that might give you confidence to be placed on the market. Or it might give you confidence to call your mortgage broker and say, hey, we are sadly considering bridging finance because we feel like we can only get a 30-day deal on this because that's just the market for our buyer.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Okay. Bullshit aside, you're the agent, I'm the vendor. How are we selling this thing? What would be the best way in which we get this result?
I'll flip it back to you. Do we prefer to buy a house on the market or off the market?
No comment. No.
Yeah.
I do believe that for the vast majority of sellers, the best results are going to be found on market, putting it in front of competition and letting the market sort of, create that groundswell and competition and emotion and get the best result possible. That's not to say that off-market or pre-market doesn't have a role to play in all this stuff. For us as buyers agents, when we are calling around the hundreds of agents we do a week, we're identifying ourselves as the best buyer in that market. I don't want to miss anything. I want to know about everything. And for a lot of agents and their sellers, they're like, okay, well, these guys are the best buyers at the moment. And there would be no harm in bringing these guys through ahead of time. At best, we're going to get them linked up to the right property and they will pay the right price to get it. Or they're going to get great feedback. And I think that's a really crucial part of a good sales campaign if they're willing to make the time and effort to do so.
Agreed. And you've hit the nail on the head. It is a campaign. It has phases. It goes through off market and on Instagram, right? That's the big thing in Brisbane at the moment, off market, but on Instagram. It goes through pre-market, which is usually where the vast majority of hot buyers agents get involved. And if you've got offers that are in that dream price range and you don't have to put 15 grand into marketing, you've got the opportunity to sell it, right? Lean on your agent. Is there more out there? Is this a premium price? Don't bullshit us. Then there's on market. Again, if I'm selling my house, I am probably auctioning my house and I'm doing it on a 2.5 week campaign because it's hard to maintain energy and excitement for longer than that. I don't love 4-week campaigns. That is just the done thing because it's what's done in Sydney and Melbourne. Shorter campaigns, unconditional contract. I am launching it on a Tuesday. I'm having an open home on a Wednesday or a Thursday because only motivated buyers go to midweek open homes. It takes a lot to leave like your husband or your wife at home with the kids while you're going to an open house, right? Or to leave work early to get to an open house, right? Or to, like, again, the worst of the worst, sacrifice that everyone's getting McDonald's because we're all going to a 6 o'clock open home and there's no baths tonight, kid. We're just getting home and going straight to bed. It's only the serious people. It's only the motivated people. It's the people that will probably give you the right money into that dream price range who will be there at that Wednesday and Thursday. So have one early. And then by the time Saturday rolls around,
who's here for a second time?
The good ones come back for number 2 and all the lookers and all the neighbours come through. And the good ones are like, holy shit, there's so many people here. We better pay big money this afternoon, right? So this would be how I would be doing it. And for all the buyers who are listening to this, this is how good agents do it. So be wary of the Saturday open home. There might be a lot of people in the house, but not everyone is a buyer. So ask the agent, anyone back for a second look?
Yeah.
And get those numbers. They're the competition. They're the people you've got to be wary of. And if you are one of those people, who else came back today? That's the question to ask.
Because that's your competition.
For sure. Those agents, they're able just to leverage those second inspections against the browsers to extract early offers. And if you have bought a house before you've sold, again, I'm going to come back to that where we started this show. If you have bought a house before you sold and the first Saturday you've got 6 people through for a second look and 25 others, expect offers and consider taking them because they will be emotional offers.
First weekends, that's where that's where a lot of great results happen for good properties.
For sure.
We're assuming here that everyone's holding on to really great real estate.
Yeah.
Really commonsensical stuff. Well, I think it's common sense. It may not be for everyone, but like how we present a home and as a seller, things to consider before taking your home to market. And I know this might sound ridiculous, but like a clean home, an uncluttered home, thinking of it like a new car showroom is something that it just shouldn't be taken for granted. Don't let people have to use their imagination about how a space could look. Don't make them look beyond the mess. It's just such a great way. It puts some people off. We've certainly had buyers in the past that were just like, oh, it's dirty.
Mm.
You're like, you can clean that.
Yeah, sure. It will be clean.
It's
we'll
like,
pay for it.
but just don't let there be any friction.
Yeah.
Let people's eyes come into the space and be like, wow, doesn't this feel like home?
I want to live here.
Yep.
I'm going to get the same couch that they have. I'm going to put my reading nook there. Like, your point on showroom condition is bang on. Like, I remember when I went and got the Tesla, I was like, I'm getting this color. And you're like, mate,
the lights and tiles are designed to make you want that color.
And thank God I didn't buy that color. But I was like, I'm getting it. I'm doing it. And you're like, no, man, showroom condition. Take it outside. Take that one on a test drive, not the other one. So it's the same in real estate. Like, good agents will sound like they're pushing you to do things that you don't want to do. It does add up, and it may be the difference in a great price and an outstanding price, a record price, a street record. The price that offends people on the internet, right, comes from houses that are staged and or just tidied to be absolutely objectionless.
Definitely, and a property that is then also easy to offer on. Like we talk about, no friction, and that can come down to things like providing a building and pest,
non-negotiable,
providing a good building and pest,
for sure,
not just a one pager. An honest, transparent building and pest, being like, here is my home, warts and all. I want you to offer well, and I want you to offer. I put forward offers that are easy for me to that now for accept.
Yep.
Developer reports on the kitchen table.
Shout out.
Here is warts and all. Again, it's just here it is, guys. Here is not only the stuff you can see, here's all the stuff that you can't see. And here I am. I'm a seller. I'm a real seller.
For sure.
I'm not here just for the sake of having people walk through my house every weekend and every Wednesday night. Providing like commentary about either renovation plans or just quotes that you've got, just any information, like almost an information pack that you can provide is super helpful for a buyer that might not have the imagination.
If you've done that typical Brisbane post wall where you've added a deck, you've done the kitchen, and you've added a master bedroom and an ensuite, give the building approvals, right? Like, have them on display, put them in the agent's pack that they email to everybody out afterwards. So they've just got the documentation. Someone sees that, they're like, oh, cool, it was done legitimately, right? Here was the builder. Yes, they were insured when they did it. Here's the actual price of what it costs, because you can build that into, you can't build that again, right? The replacement cost is significantly above that. Helps justify what you're looking for, or helps justify them paying a little bit more if it's going to auction, right? So take away all the questions, provide them all. Again, coming back to what makes a good real estate agent, if they're sitting at the dining room table with you, before you've made a choice, they should be saying, whether you use me or anyone else, get these documents in a row, do this. Like, yes, it will cost time to find all this paperwork and a little bit of money, $650 to get a building and pest inspection, but we will find out what's wrong with your place. And that gives us the opportunity to make a decision to fix it so that there is nothing wrong and everybody goes, wow, epic, I can just move straight in. Or we align our expectations and we say to everyone else, we know that you may need to replace the guttering, or we may know the exhaust fan isn't working, or there's a pile of asbestos under the house that needs to be paid to get removed by somebody who's licensed. We're either going to do it after settlement and that'll be built into cost, or we're going to do it ahead of time so that it's all there and it is as close to a 10 out of 10 before we get there as possible.
What you're doing is creating more confident buyers. And if you've got more confident buyers, you should have more confident offers.
For sure.
More confident offers is going to more or less give you a better result in the end. And I think that's what every seller should hope for.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
I think that's certainly how we'd sell a house.
Guys, that is a very long podcast by our standards. So we're going to call it there. He's Sam. I'm Chase. Cue the song.